The wait is over, Canada. The 2024 CFL season is finally here. From coast to coast, 9 teams will battle it out for the coveted Grey Cup championship. The reigning champion Montreal Alouettes look to repeat, but the BC Lions, Hamilton Tiger Cats, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are hungry for a title. With new talent, new coaches, and new rivalries, the 2024 season promises to be the most exciting yet. Join me as we break down each team's chances, predict the playoffs, and crown our champion. Now it's time for CFL football.
5th place, the Calgary Stampeders, 5-13.
Last season for the Calgary Stampeders wasn't that memorable at all, even though they made the playoffs. That's because they finished with a losing record, after having a stellar campaign in the previous season where they won 12 games. During the season, their record was 6 wins and 12 losses, worth 12 points, and that was also their first losing campaign since 2007. In the playoffs last year, they played against the BC Lions in the division semifinals. Unfortunately, they lost that game 41-30. They went 4-7 against their division rivals last year. Their offense scored the 6th least amount of points last year, and their defense wasn't much better, ranking 6th in points allowed. For this season, there will be many new faces on the team, and overall this roster isn't going to be that great this year. By all means, I think that they will be the second worst team in the league this season, and will miss the playoffs for the first time since 2004.
4th place, the Edmonton Elks, 6-12.
The Edmonton Elks had another horrible season last year by being tied for the worst team in the league. In the 2023 season, we saw them finished with a record of 4 wins and 14 losses, worth 8 points, and that was their second consecutive year with the same win total. During last season, they went 2-9 against their division rivals. Currently, they haven't had a winning record since 2018, and in that time, they have been one of the worst teams in the entire league. At the moment, their last playoff appearance came in the 2019 season, and this is actually the longest drought for them since the 1960s. Their offense was the worst unit in points scored, and their defense was the 3rd worst unit in points allowed. Edmonton's roster is going to be much improved for the new campaign. So my prediction is that they will be a more competitive team this season, but won't make a playoff spot with 12 points.
3rd place, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 7-11.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders had another bad season last year by having their 2nd consecutive losing campaign in a row. During that season, their record was 6 wins and 12 losses, worth 12 points, and they finished that campaign with a 7-game losing streak. They also missed the playoffs in back-to-back seasons, which is the first time that has happened for them since the 2015 to 2016 campaigns. Last year, the team went 5-7 against their division rivals. Their offense really struggled last season, ranking as the 2nd worst unit in points scored, and their defense was the worst overall unit in points allowed. The Roughriders roster wasn't that great of a unit last year, and in the new season, I suspect that this roster is going to be much more talented. So for the new season, my prediction is that they are going to be a better team, and they could compete for a playoff spot with 14 points.
2nd place, the BC Lions, 12-6.
The BC Lions had a fantastic season last year by making the playoffs for a 2nd consecutive time in a row. In the playoffs, they made it to the division finals against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Unfortunately, they lost that game 24-13. During the regular season, they had a record of 12 wins and 6 losses worth 24 points, which was their 2nd straight winning record in a row, and their 2nd consecutive season with the same win total. The Lions went 8-4 against their division rivals last year. Last season, their offense was the 3rd best overall unit in points scored, and their defense ranked 4th in points allowed. For the upcoming season, their roster is going to be great, but however, the Lions will spend this upcoming season without the CFL's most outstanding defensive player, Mathieu Betts. He signed a 1-year deal with the Detroit Lions. So my prediction is that the BC Lions are going to be one of the top teams going into the new season, and they will be a contender to win the CFL championship this year with 24 points.
1st place, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 13-5.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers had another wonderful season last year by making the Grey Cup for a 4th time in a row. In that Grey Cup, they played against the Montreal Alouettes, They were also the favorite to win, but unfortunately, they lost that game 28-24. In those 4 straight Grey Cup appearances, they won 2 of those appearances in 2019 and in 2021, and have lost the previous 2 in a row. During the regular season, they had a record of 14 wins and 4 losses, worth 28 points, and they were the second best overall team. They also went 10-2 against their division rivals last year. Last season, their offense was the best unit in points scored, and they had the most dominant defense in the league in points allowed. The Blue Bombers had one of the most talented rosters last year, and this season they are going to have another talented roster going into the new campaign. So I believe that they are going to be one of the favorites to win the championship this year, and could make their 5th Grey Cup in a row with 26 points.
4th place, the Ottawa Redblacks, 4-14.
The Ottawa Redblacks had another bad season last year, being tied as the worst team in the league. Since 2019, they have been the worst overall team in that period, not winning more than 4 games in a season. Last season, their record was 4 wins and 14 losses, worth 8 points. They were the only team in the entire league to not win a single game against their division rivals last year, and in the last 3 total seasons against division rivals, they have won a grand total of 4 and lost 24 in that period. Their last winning record and playoff appearance came in 2018. Last season, their offense ranked 5th in the league in points scored, and their defense was the second worst unit in points allowed. Their roster this season is going to be improved compared to the previous campaign. So my prediction is that the Ottawa Redblacks are going to be the worst team again this year with 8 points on the new campaign.
3rd place, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, 9-9.
The Hamilton Tiger Cats had another disappointing campaign last year, even though they made the playoffs for a 5th time in a row. That's because they finished last season with a losing record for a 2nd consecutive year in a row. In the playoffs last season, they made it to the division semifinals against the Montreal Alouettes. Unfortunately, they lost that game 27-12. Their record last season was 8 wins and 10 losses, worth 16 points. During last season, they went 3-7 against their division rivals. Their offense was the 3rd worst unit in points scored, and their defense ranked 5th in the league in points allowed. Hamilton's roster this season is going to be in the middle of the pack in talent, but maybe they could surprise us this year. So my prediction is that they will compete for a playoff spot all season long with 18 points.
2nd place, the Toronto Argonauts, 10-8.
The Toronto Argonauts had one of the best ever seasons by a team in league history, and it was their best season in team history at the same time. Last season, their record was 16 wins and 2 losses, and that tied the 1989 Edmonton Eskimos for the CFL record for most wins in a regular season. They also went undefeated against their division rivals last year. They also made the playoffs for a 3rd time in a row, which is the most in a row for them since the early 2000s. In the playoffs, they played against the Montreal Alouettes in the division semifinals. Unfortunately for them, their season came to a shocking end, losing 38-17. Toronto had the 2nd best offense in points scored, and their defense ranked 3rd in the league in points allowed. They do have a talented roster, but with the suspension of their QB Chad Kelly for the first 9 games of the season, that's going to hurt quite a bit. So my prediction for the new season is that they are going to be a playoff contender all year long with 20 points.
1st place, the Montreal Alouettes, 12-6.
The Montreal Alouettes are the defending champions, and that was their 8th championship in team history and 1st since 2010. In that championship game, they played against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and they won that game by a score of 28-24. Currently at the moment, they have made the playoffs every year since 2019. During the regular season, their record was 11 wins and 7 losses, worth 22 points. They also went 7-3 against their division rivals last year. Their offense ranked 4th in points scored, and their defense ranked as the 2nd best unit in points allowed. Montreal is going to have a great roster again going into the new season. I absolutely think that they are going to be one of the favorites to win the championship this year with 24 points. So now to the playoffs, and here's my playoff bracket for 2024. And here are my predictions for each round of the playoffs. In the Grey Cup, I have the BC Lions versus the Montreal Alouettes, and my winner is going to be the BC Lions.
So those are my predictions for the CFL this season. Who do you think will win the Grey Cup this year? Let me know down in the comments section. If you're new, please consider subscribing and also hit that notification bell. And if you love sports, this is definitely the place for you. And also share this video with more sports fans. For more football videos, please click up here. And thank you so much for watching. My name is Nathan, and I'll see you guys all next time. Just keep loving sports.